Okay, kids, today we're going to learn about atoms and elements. So, what I want you to do is be sure that you are filling in your doodle notes as I go. All right, elements. Atoms. All matter is made of tiny particles called atoms. Atoms are made of even smaller subatomic particles called protons, electrons, and neutrons. First, we're going to talk about protons. Positively charged particles in the nucleus or the center, and you can see where the arrow's pointing, that have a mass of 1 AMU. Okay, so we use the unit AMU, atomic mass unit. They have a mass of 1. The number of protons determines the element of an atom. For example, hydrogen has 1 proton, helium has 2. So the number of protons determines what type of atom that is, and each atom is a distinct element. All right, the second particle we're going to talk about is the electron. Those are negatively charged particles in the electron shells. So you can see these rings around the nucleus. We call those rings shells or levels. The mass of an electron is 1 over 1,850. So 1 fraction of that of a proton. So it does not add significant mass to the atom. So very, very small amount of weight there. Okay, and the last particle that you need to know, subatomic particle, is located in the nucleus. They are neutral particles, and that is what's called a neutron. So they're neutral particles in the nucleus of the atom. They have no charge and have a mass of 1 AMU, so atomic mass unit. So they're the same mass as the proton, but they just have no charge. So it's kind of just like I always say, it's like dead weight. They just add mass to the atom. Hydrogen is the only element that does not have at least 1 neutron in its nucleus. Atoms are mostly empty space. The mass comes from the protons and the neutrons in the nucleus. So most of the mass comes from the nucleus, not the shells surrounding it that have the electrons. Remember, electrons have next to no mass to them. All right, let's talk about elements. So an element is a substance that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by chemical means. An element is composed of atoms that have the same number of protons in their nucleus. Here you can see the element magnesium. So up at the top, typically on the left, you will see what's called its atomic number. So every element has a unique atomic number. It indicates the total number of protons in the nucleus of that atom. So magnesium has an atomic number of 12, meaning it has 12 protons. Normal atoms are electrically neutral, meaning the same number of protons as electrons. It also has the same number. Okay, let me restart. Normal atoms are electrically neutral, same number of protons as electrons, so it is also the number of electrons. So for magnesium, it has 12 protons. It wants to have no charge, no outstanding. So it also has to have 12 electrons so that it doesn't have more positive than negative particles. So to be a neutral element of magnesium or a neutral element or atom of magnesium, it has to have 12 protons and then 12 electrons. Okay, so here's if you're reading about magnesium on the periodic table, this next part points to the atomic symbol. So Every element is abbreviated using a unique symbol of one or two letters. So magnesium's atomic symbol is Mg. The first letter is always capitalized, and if there is a second letter, it is lowercase. Some are based on other languages. For example, the symbol Fe is iron from the Latin word ferrium. So Fe is the symbol for iron. And you're looking at iron in the English language, like where does Fe even come from? But it's a Latin word for ferrium, and that means iron. Okay, the next, typically you'll see the element's name. So every element has a unique name. Many element names are very old and are based on other languages. Chlorine is named after chloros, the Greek word for yellowish green. Newly discovered elements are named by the discoverer, but must be approved by an international committee. All right, you will also find on an element's description on the periodic table its atomic mass. Atomic mass is the mass of the protons and the neutrons in an atom. Every proton and neutron has a mass of 1 AMU. So if you add up the protons plus the neutrons, typically you will get the atomic mass. Electrons do not count towards the mass because they are tiny. The mass can be shown with a decimal because it is an average mass of the isotopes of that element, and we'll learn a little bit more about isotopes later. Okay, kids, make sure your doodle notes are filled in, and we will discuss this a little more later.